가래나무가 많이 있고 지금은 이제 그 강을 준설해 갖고 넓어졌잖아, 폭이.
네.
그때 당시에 자연스러운 강이다 보니까 지금 이 하남시부터는 강폭이 넓었어.
네.
근데 우리 마을 내려오면서 이 강동대교 있는 쪽이 좁았어, 폭이.
네.
그게 물살이 세.
네.
그건 이제 여울목이라지. 그래서 가래나무가 강가에 많고 여울목이 따서 가래여울.
아, 그렇게 합쳐져서.
예. 그렇게 명칭이 된 겁니다.
그럼 이거
네.
가지고 오신 이거가
이제 이게 가래 열매인데요.
They say the village used to produce loads of monkey nuts. There are so many fun stories to share as he's been around all these years. As expected of the nature-friendly village, flocks of swallows migrate to this town every season, so the townspeople prepare to greet them all the time.
이게 이 사진 속의 제비집인 거죠?
네.
제비집, 제비집.
네.
네, 실제 제비집이 여기 있습니다.
여기도 있고.
While things around here have changed a lot, nature still breathes alive.
그러다가 20일을 동안 짓고 아까 그 안에 있는 새끼를 4마리를 낳은 거예요, 거기다.
야.
Garaeyeoul village is a living memory of the past that exists in the city. The villagers have been writing history alongside the town with a collective and communal mindset. Moon Jong-chul, from a family of 7 generations in this town, told me there's a symbol of the village he wants to show me.
사장님께서 직접 딱 이렇게 심으신 거니까.
예, 애착이 더 가지요.
네, 정말 좋으실 것 같아요. 이게.
To continue keeping the legacy of the village and its name, Mr. Moon planted a monkey tree himself.
이 동네의 상징적인 나무라고 할 수 있어서.
상징나무죠.
네, 이거는 이 가래나무.
In the past, located beyond the endless plains of sand, the village was known for a panoramic view of the wriggly streams of the Han River. It used to be a rest stop for boats and sailors en route to places like Gangnaru, Mapo, and Noryangjin. While the village will inevitably succumb to the changes brought by time, it's one of the few remaining naturally formed villages in Seoul with preserved traditions and old values.
아니, 이 한강 강물을 이렇게 직접 손으로 이렇게 만져볼 수 있는 데가 어디 있겠습니까? 아, 정말 물이 맑고, 너무 좋습니다. 여기가 사장님한테는 정말 태어나고 자라온 아주 특별한 장소일 것 같아요.
네, 예. 여기 추억이 많죠.
네.
어려서 이제 여기 이 가성사리가 전부 빨래터. 옛날에는 자갈이 여기 있고
네.
모래는 금빛 모래는 이 위로 있어. 저 나무 위로. 이 밑으로는 전부 자갈이고.
네.
그러니까 이제 아낙네들이 이제 빨래로 나오면은 애기 똥 싼 기저귀도 가지고 나오잖아.
네.
그걸 갖다 이제 이렇게 흔들면은 고기가 그냥 까맣게 덤벼. 그 고기가 피라미야, 피라미. 피라미, 모래무지 이런 건데 그거를 이제 어항을 갖다 놓으면은
들어와요?
금방 들어와서 금방 그냥 대방울 하나씩 걸렸어요. 그래가지고 그걸 이제 매운탕도 끓여 먹고 또 이 동네는 특히 주말 여름 하계절에는 이제 서울에서 대학생들이 와갖고 캠핑을 하고 야간에 그냥 축제도 벌리고 이렇게 한 동네예요. 그래서 이 동네가 진짜 물 맑고 백사장이 좋았기 때문에 대학생들이 너무너무 많이 와갖고 이 동네 장사도 잘 됐었죠, 그때 당시에는. 네.
지금도
네.
물이 너무 깨끗해요.
네.
Garaeyeoul village, home to the native families of endless generations, his history has now become a part of the village and its history. A village where time flows slowly as time goes, the warmer it seems to be.
first debate over the weekend, too.
The economy is expected to expand 2.5% this year.
Boosting Korea's ties with its global partners on the sidelines of the status UN summit. A massive drone attack on Ukraine overnight on Monday and Tuesday.
아리랑.
도시는 세계와 연결되어 문화를 창조했고 새로운 것을 받아들였다.
함께여서 우리는 더 자유롭고 더 멀리 갈 수 있어.
닫힌 문이 아니라 열린 질문으로.
나에게 에이펙은
자유,
융합,
국제성,
다양성,
포용,
개발.
신라의 정신이 에이펙 2025로 이어집니다.
Welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. South Korea's top trade negotiator Yo Han-gu met with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer in Washington, D.C. in a bid to break the deadlock in the two countries' stalled tariff talks. This comes amid concerns that South Korean car makers could face a disadvantage in the U.S. market after Washington agreed to lower tariffs on Japanese auto imports. Foreign Minister Cho Hyun headed to Beijing this morning for talks with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi. This marks his first visit to China since taking office. Israel says it has begun expanded ground operations in Gaza City, forcing thousands of Palestinians to flee. At the same time, the country also launched an attack on a port city in Yemen, targeting the Houthis. We begin this morning with South Korea's push to finalize the details of its trade deal with the United States. Seoul's top trade negotiator is now in Washington, seeking a breakthrough in the talks. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump says higher tariffs could be imposed on semiconductors and pharmaceuticals than on automobiles. Our An Sung-jin starts us off.
South Korea and the United States are thrashing out the details of their trade agreement. Trade Minister Yo Han-gu has reportedly met with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer to work out the details of Korea's investment in the U.S. Yo arrived in the U.S. on Monday to discuss the detailed implementation of the trade agreement. The tariff talks come after Industry Minister Kim Jong-kwan and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick had back-to-back high-level talks the previous week. Back in July, the two countries agreed that the U.S. would lower tariffs to 15%, with Korea pledging $350 billion of investment in the U.S. However, a final deal remains elusive due to disagreements over implementation. The U.S. wants control over investment locations and a 90% return after principal recovery, while Korea insists on vetting the companies involved and argues that profit-sharing terms are economically unreasonable. Following recent immigration raids on battery plants in Georgia, Seoul is also pressing for a resolution on visa issues for skilled workers. Yo is scheduled to head back to Korea on Thursday. Meanwhile, starting from Wednesday, U.S. tariffs on Japanese automobiles have been reduced from 25% to 15%. Korea has been raising concerns that this will reduce the competitiveness of Korean cars in the U.S. market. But apart from the automobile tariffs, U.S. President Trump has also hinted at potential tariffs on chips and pharmaceutical products as well. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Seoul and Beijing's top diplomats will meet in person this week as Foreign Minister Cho Hyun makes his first visit to China since taking office. Cho took off from Seoul earlier this morning from Gimpo International Airport for a two-day trip to Beijing. Before catching his flight, Cho told the press he will meet with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in their first high-level talks under the Lee Jae-myung administration. Their discussions are expected to include preparations for next month's APEC leaders meeting in Gyeongju, a possible visit by President Xi Jinping, and ways to advance the two countries' strategic cooperative partnership. Cho added that North Korea will also be discussed as regime leader Kim Jong-un visited Beijing earlier this month. So South Korea's top diplomat is expected to sit down for talks with China's Wang Yi perhaps this afternoon. For more on the bilateral relations between Seoul and Beijing, we're joined today by Dr. Kim Dong-soo, professor of the Division of International and Area Studies at Pugyong National University. Professor Kim, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
So this is the first time that Seoul's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun is traveling to China. Could you just tell us more about the significance of this trip?
Yeah, South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun's first visit to Beijing since taking office carries several layers of significance. First of all, it signals South Korea's foreign policy direction toward China. South Korea is trying to navigate between the U.S. and China. Strengthening ties with China does not mean necessarily turning away from the U.S., but it signals that South Korea wants more independent, multilateral, and regionally balanced diplomacy. Secondly, this visit is likely a part of an effort to reset or de-escalate tensions in Northeast Asia. Also, Seoul has interest in ensuring China remains at least partially cooperative in dealing with North Korea and in maintaining regional order.
Right, and he's there to meet with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, and there are a lot of pending issues between the two countries, such as North Korea issues, Xi Jinping's participation at the APEC meeting here in South Korea, and structures built in the West Sea. So do you think these issues will come up in their talks?
Yes, I believe those issues are very likely to come up in the talks because they touch on the core security, diplomatic, and economic concerns for both sides. Seoul will want to gauge Beijing's willingness to pressure Pyongyang or at least engage more actively in restraining North Korea's weapons program. Xi Jinping's participation at APEC is also very important because having Xi attend would give South Korea's APEC hosting global visibility and signal China's recognition of Seoul's regional role. Beijing may utilize Xi's attendance as a bargaining chip to secure assurance on sensitive issues such as Seoul's alignment with Washington, START, or economic technology cooperation. And also the West Sea structure is a very sensitive issue to both sides. So I believe all the three issues will come up in the talks.
I see. And President Lee Jae-myung earlier said he'll focus on pragmatic diplomacy. And what he meant by that was that he'll put South Korea's national interests first in diplomacy. How should the Lee administration balance relations with China, especially at a time with the growing rivalry between Beijing and Washington?
Since President Lee has pledged to pursue pragmatic diplomacy and place South Korea's national interest first, balancing between Washington and Beijing is not just a tactical choice, but a strategic necessity for Seoul. The security alliance with Washington remains the cornerstone of South Korea's defense, especially against North Korea's nuclear and missile threat. Abandoning or weakening the relations with the United States would be unthinkable. By contrast, China is South Korea's largest trading partner, crucial for supply chains. Two, to pursue balance. First of all, the Lee administration could rest on issue-based differentiation. The administration would work closely with the United States on hard security and North Korean issue, but cooperate with China on trade and regional stability. While maintaining issue-based differentiation, the administration would also keep strategic ambiguity with transparency, which would lead to avoid being forced into binary choices, but to communicate transparently with both sides to reduce mistrust.
Right, a crucial issue to tackle and a crucial task for the Lee Jae-myung administration. And looking ahead, what's your take on the possibility of Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping holding a summit here in South Korea on the sidelines of the APEC meeting later this month?
Taking all the points into consideration, I would rate the possibility of Trump-Xi meeting at APEC in Gyeongju as moderately high, but far from certain. Some meeting, possibly very short, seems plausible, but a full detailed summit with broad agreement seems less likely. Even if the summit is realized, some kind of joint declaration on significant issues would not be likely. Instead, I think it is very likely that some bottom line principles like global security, economic cooperation would be reconfirmed.
I see. I guess we'll have to see how that goes. All right. Professor Kim, thank you for your time and insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And on the local front, President Lee Jae-myung called balanced regional growth inevitable for sustainable development in a cabinet meeting held outside of Seoul for the first time under his administration. Our top office correspondent Yoon Jung-min reports.
Achieving sustainable growth is a key task for the nation, and it is possible through balanced growth. This is according to President Lee Jae-myung as he presided over the weekly cabinet meeting on Tuesday at the Sejong government complex in the administrative city of Sejong for the first time since taking office.
대한민국의 지속적인 성장 발전을 위해서 이제는 국가 균형 발전이 선택이 아니라 이제 운명이 됐다 이렇게 생각이 듭니다.
To shift away from a system heavily concentrated in the capital, the new government is pushing a key national agenda to balance development across other regions, divided into 5 key hubs, including the Seoul metropolitan area and 3 special governing areas, Gangwon, Jeonbuk, and Jeju.
Currently, we have a balanced growth system that treats regions equally, but it will be converted into concentration and connection, focusing on intensive regional units.
In line with that, the president renewed his pledge to build another presidential office in Sejong, as well as a National Assembly building. And noting Youth Week, President Lee stated the need to boost employment among young people, pointing to the August job report that showed the employment rate of people aged 15 to 29 declining for the 16th straight month.
청년 고용 문제 해결을 위해서는 정부뿐 아니라 기업의 노력도 필요합니다. 청년도 기업도 국가도 모두가 윈윈하는
During Tuesday's meeting, the Lee administration's 123 policy tasks unveiled last month were confirmed by the cabinet, which will serve as a roadmap for the next 5 years. Among a wide range of areas, key agenda items include introducing 2 4-year presidential terms instead of the current single 5-year term. South Korea also aims to bolster its 3-axis defense system, as well as take back wartime operational control from Washington. On the economy, the authorities will focus on fostering new growth engines involving AI and biotechnology. The government made sure these are carried out in the right direction through a monitoring system, while creating an online platform where ordinary people can pitch their ideas. After the cabinet meeting, Lee stopped by a farm in Sejong to meet and greet young farmers and discussed ways to promote smart farming. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Over in the Middle East, Israel has announced that it has begun ground operations in Gaza as part of an intense new assault on the enclave. And as its forces advanced on Gaza City, the Israeli military also said it struck a port city in Yemen. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump warned Hamas of big trouble if the group uses hostages as human shields. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Tuesday that Israel's forces are operating on several fronts as the conflict expanded in both Yemen and Gaza.
Our forces are operating on several fronts. A few moments ago, our pilots attacked the port of Hodeida in Yemen. This is the main supply port of the Houthi terrorist regime. At the same time, our forces are operating in Gaza City with the goal, of course, of achieving the enemy's defeat, but at the same time also of evacuating the population.
Israeli forces struck the Yemeni port city of Hodeida, targeting what officials described as military infrastructure used by Iran-backed Houthi rebels. The Israeli military claims the port has been a hub for transferring weapons used in attacks against Israel and its allies. In response, Houthi forces activated their air defenses. This comes just a week after Israeli strikes hit the Yemeni capital, Sana'a, killing dozens of people, including journalists. Those strikes followed a Houthi drone attack on an airport in southern Israel. At the same time, Israel has launched a major ground offensive in Gaza City, already devastated by nearly 2 years of bombardment. Residents reported tank incursions in several neighborhoods, while airstrikes swept across the city overnight. Gaza health officials say at least 40 people were killed in the early hours of the assault, most of them in Gaza City. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump warned Hamas militants that they would be in big trouble if they used hostages as human shields.
I hear Hamas is trying to use the old human shield deal, and if they do that, they're going to be in big trouble. They're going to be in big trouble.
The latest escalation underscores Israel's widening military campaign on multiple fronts, with the risk of drawing in more regional actors. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korean high jumper Woo Sang-hyeok won his second career silver medal on Tuesday at the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo. Woo cleared 2.34 meters, finishing just behind New Zealand's Hamish Kerr, who topped the podium with 2.36 meters. Woo also won the silver medal during the 2022 event and was seeking to become South Korea's first outdoor world champion. The 29-year-old is the first South Korean athlete to win multiple medals at the World Outdoor Championships. In other news, researchers here in South Korea have found a way to make biodegradable batteries from coffee grounds. Our Cha Yun-kyung explains more.
1 cup of coffee contains around 15 grams of coffee beans. But almost all coffee beans are thrown away as coffee grounds, except for only around 0.2%. To find a use for it, Korean researchers have found a way to make eco-friendly disposable batteries made out of coffee grounds instead of plastic and metal. Coffee grounds are molded like clay and pressed into a metal mold. Magnesium alloy is used for the anode, molybdenum trioxide for the cathode, and an electrolyte is placed in between to complete the design.
Plastics require quite a complicated structure to make battery frames, while coffee grounds are easy to form with their open cell porous structure.
These eco-friendly disposable batteries have a higher voltage than a dry cell, with the power to light up a 1.7-volt LED for 1 week. Most of all, they are completely biodegradable. Since they are made out of magnesium alloy and molybdenum trioxide, they easily dissolve in water. After placing one in a flower pot for testing, it completely decomposed in rainwater within 2 months, and even new shoots began to grow.
It works perfectly as a battery. Furthermore, there is no need to collect the battery after its use, since it can decompose naturally.
The research team aims to extend the battery life and develop it with eco-friendly power technology for environmental monitoring sensors, such as those used for wildfire prevention. 차윤경, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and this is The World Now. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. has been revoking visas of foreigners who celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination. Rubio made the remarks on Tuesday morning local time before departing Israel after he had wrote on his social media on Monday that visa revocations are underway for foreigners celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. He also said visa holders who are cheering on the public assassination of the conservative activist are now under scrutiny. The comments come amid broader threats by the Trump administration to punish alleged hate speech regarding the killing of Kirk last week. Meanwhile, the person accused of killing Kirk, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, made his first court appearance in Utah. Prosecutors confirmed they will seek the death penalty. President Donald Trump said on Tuesday he will attend a memorial service in Arizona for Kirk. Russian President Vladimir Putin has made a rare appearance overseeing the Russia-Belarus joint military exercises. The visit comes as Moscow claims that NATO is already at war with Russia. On Tuesday, Putin visited the Mulino training ground in Russia's Nizhny Novgorod region, where he observed joint military exercises with Belarus as part of the Zapad 2025 operation. He stated that the drills involve approximately 100,000 personnel. Putin addressed the troops, saying that the exercises are to train the unconditional protection of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and defense against any aggression towards the Union state, referring to the alliance between Russia and Belarus. The Russian president had earlier accused NATO of being in a de facto war with his country, citing the alliance's supply of weapons, training, and political support to Ukraine. Poland's new president, Karol Nawrocki, visited Berlin on Tuesday, meeting with German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier and Chancellor Friedrich Merz. Nawrocki's long-standing demand has been that Germany pay war reparations for the destruction inflicted during World War II, a claim Germany continues to reject, saying the issue was legally settled decades ago. While a spokesperson for Germany's chancellor said the issue of reparations was not discussed in their meeting, it was raised in talks with Germany's president, who said the matter has been legally clarified. Germany's leaders said all claims are closed under international law, citing the 1953 London Agreement and post-war treaties. American acting legend Robert Redford, best known for his starring in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and The Sting, died at age 89 on Tuesday at his home in Utah. A legendary figure of 1970s cinema, Redford also won acclaim behind the camera, his film Ordinary People bringing him Oscars for Best Director and Best Picture in 1980. He also co-founded the Sundance Film Festival, becoming a major force in promoting independent film. Beyond his acting and directing, Redford was also well known for his environmental activism and political engagement. Tributes poured in, with Leonardo DiCaprio saying, "We lost a legend today."
More
rain is forecast to impact many parts of the country today. Showers are falling across the central regions in Jeollabuk-do province this morning. And through this afternoon, the heaviest downpours will be focused on southern Gyeonggi-do, Chungcheong-namdo, as well as the capital area. So please take extra care out on the roads. So southern Gyeonggi-do and Chungcheong-namdo provinces could see more than 100 millimeters of downpours. The capital region could see 10 to 60 millimeters through the mid-afternoon. Meanwhile, heat advisories remain in place for the southern regions and Jeju. Temperatures there will feel close to 33 degrees under high humidity. And this afternoon, Daegu and Busan will be getting up to 32 degrees Celsius. Jeju topping out at 33 degrees despite on and off rain in the forecast through tomorrow. Meanwhile, Seoul only gets up to 24 degrees. Once the rain clears, cooler winds will arrive, but do keep an umbrella handy. Another round of nationwide rain is expected between Friday and Saturday.
Now that is all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.
저희 누나가 발레를 하다 보니까 자연스럽게 누나 발레 학원에 따라가서 누나가 하는 모습을 보니까 저도 하고 싶다고 생각이 조금 들어서 발레 음악에 맞춰서 아무 춤이나 추다 보니까 그냥 그 음악에 맞춰서 제가 몸을 움직이는 게 재밌다고 느껴졌었는지 발레를 계속 하고 있더라고요. 나이가 좀 어릴 때 제가 가진 장점이 무엇인지도 모르고 아예 제가 가진 단점도 모를 때 발레를 시작했다 보니까 제일 큰 문제가 이제 평발이었던 것 같아요. 평발이다 보니까 발레를 할 때 쥐가 조금 많이 나는 편이라 그거를 견뎌가면서 춤을 계속 춰야 했던 거 그게 가장 극복하기 힘들었던 것 같고요. 제가 다리가 다른 친구들보다 조금 두껍다고 해서 제 다리를 조금 싫어했었는데 근데 이제 로잔에 갔다 오고 나서 오히려 제 다리에서 나오는 파워풀한 힘이 좋았다고 해주시는 분들도 있다는 걸 느껴가지고 그 두 개가 가장 극복하기도 힘들었고 기억에 남는 것 같아요. 프릭스티 로잔이라는 콩쿨 자체가 학생들 사이에서는 가장 크고 의미 있는 콩쿨이다 보니 제가 그 로잔 영상을 보면서 자라왔기 때문에 그 무대에 서서 제가 춤을 췄다는 것 자체가 엄청 인상 깊었던 것 같아요. 제가 걸어왔던 길, 이게 맞는 방법일까? 근데 그런 의구심을 다 없앨 수 있게 제가 가는 길이 맞았다라는 거를 확인시켜줬던 것 같아요. 그래서 그런 감정이 들어서 조금 감격스러웠던 것 같아요. 한 배역에만 잘 할 수 있는 명수가 아니라 어떠한 배역을 받아도 다 넣어서 소화해낼 수 있는 그런 스펙트럼이 넓은 명수가 되고 싶습니다.
drawing more fans from all over the world. Local consumer prices continue to hover at the 2% rate in April.
Turning to robots to allow the visually impaired the chance to better indulge in cultural experiences. Like the number of hybrid cars are registered in South Korea has surpassed 2 million with this locally developed Yuri rocket.
Arirang.
We're here to bring a new type of news show. New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Wednesday, September 17th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Kwon Ji-yeon. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, and also Ki Kim's with
Happy
us.
Hump Day.
Happy Hump Day. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So as we enter the middle of the work week, many couples might be realizing just how important a good night's sleep really is. And recently a trend called sleep divorce has been making headlines. And it sounds dramatic, but it's not about ending the marriage. It's about figuring out how to get better rest. So to start us off, so what exactly is sleep divorce and why are more people talking about it these days, Jian?
Yes, sleep divorce, it sounds absolutely dramatic indeed. Well, sleep divorce means couples still love each other but choose to sleep in separate beds. It's seen as a smart method to improve their rest and harmony at home. In fact, sleep divorce isn't about a broken marriage at all. It's about enhancing their sleep quality by using separate bedrooms or sometimes beds. And common reasons include snoring, insomnia, different body clocks or other sleep disruptions. Many young couples are now embracing this lifestyle. And even the Wall Street Journal, they actually reported that separate sleeping is rising among younger spouses. It's seen as a smart way to improve rest and harmony at home. It's about pillows apart, however, hearts together.
Did you also have some difficulties in the beginning of adjusting to each other's sleeping habits?
It was so hard to get used to the snoring part of my husband, but now I'm used to it because I snore.
You snore as well, so it's like an equal thing. So traditionally, sharing a bed was seen as an important part of marriage. So why do you think that used to be emphasized so much, Ki?
Well, I mean, before that, every single thing Juyeon has said is what I suffer: insomnia, snoring, sleeping patterns, all different. But in the past, there was even a saying, no matter how much a couple argue or fight, they should sleep under the same blanket. That reflects how strongly the idea of sharing a bed was emphasized in married life. But today, many couples place a much greater value on the quality of the sleep, especially when they have newborn babies. They share the responsibility of taking care of the baby during nighttime, so sometimes it's necessary.
So some couples are now choosing separate bedrooms in the name of better rest, but it doesn't actually stop there. These days, there are even couples who go beyond that and choose to live almost completely separate lives. And it's quite a fascinating shift in how we think about relationships and marriage. So let's take a look at the screen to learn more.
Living with someone else is never simple. It means adjusting to their habits, everything from what and when they eat to how and when they sleep. In the past, sharing the same roof and doing everything together were seen as the hallmarks of a strong marriage. But today, more couples are choosing to live apart, not because their marriage is in trouble, but because it actually helps them stay happy together. On News Generation, we take a closer look at this modern approach to marriage known as living apart together and share our own thoughts on the pros and cons.
So as we just saw in the video, more and more couples are not only choosing separate bedrooms, but some are even taking it one step further. This lifestyle is known as LAT, or living apart together, where couples remain committed to each other but choose to keep separate households. At first, it might sound a bit unconventional, but it's a trend that's gaining traction actually around the world. So Juyeon, could you explain a bit more about what this lifestyle looks like in practice and what really defines an LAT couple?
Another dramatic change in our lifestyle. Well, LAT, as you mentioned, is short for live apart together. It describes couples who are married but keep separate homes, this time homes, not beds. I know a friend whose parents live apart but still come together at their children's events, birthday parties, showing family unity while keeping their own space. They maintain closeness while preserving their personal independence. Some researchers even call it a new form of family life that now appears across all age groups. I'm sure that you've heard of these terminologies before, like cholhon or graduated marriage, which is a lifestyle where married couples live independently without divorcing, or 휴혼, which is a trial separation, is a taking a break from marriage for a certain period of time, like 6 months or a year. These were mostly shown for older generation, or for older people. However, LAT appears across all age groups now, so 2 doors but 1 family.
There are a lot of similar situations. So you might be wondering, as I did in the beginning, what's the difference between LAT couples and divorced couples who are just focused on maintaining a good relationship? And the key difference is that for LAT couples, they're still in a committed romantic relationship, whereas divorced couples are no longer together romantically. So LAT is about choosing independence while staying in the relationship, while divorced couples are simply staying cordial for family or other practical reasons. So it does seem like we've been hearing more about couples who live apart. So are we seeing this number actually grow in numbers?
Yes. So in fact, according to Statistics Korea 2025 data, the number of dual income households living apart, so-called weekend couples, rose by 44,000 compared to the year before, reaching 856,000 households. These non-cohabiting couples now account for 14% of all dual income households, making the highest proportion since the record began in 2015.
So traditionally, living apart was seen as a red flag for marriage. It usually meant there were serious problems, and that's why it was considered taboo. So couples wouldn't really openly talk about it, and society often judged them for it. But today, with the LAT lifestyle becoming more and more common, so perceptions seem to be shifting, and younger generations in particular appear to see it a bit differently. So how are millennials and Gen Zs approaching this idea of living apart together, Juyeon?
Well, the rise of LAT, it reflects how younger generations view separation differently. And I'll give you the specific numbers here. A recent TV survey of Koreans aged 20 to 40 asked whether married couples must always live together. And 54% 3% said it depends. It should depend on the situation. And around 36% still felt that sharing one family truly defines a real couple. However, while 10% said they are more comfortable keeping their own space. And just 1% said unsure, they are not sure. And so this points to a clear shift away from traditional ideas of marriage. Young people now see flexibility not as a weakness, but as a smart, clever lifestyle choice, believing that personal space can actually strengthen their relationships in marriage. So love evolves, so does the way we live now.
So in the past, when couples lived apart, what was usually the reason behind it?
Well, in the past, living apart usually meant the couples were on the brink of divorce and taking separation as a step before ending their marriage. But from the mid-1990s, with the surge of private education, many families sent the mother and children abroad for study, and while the father stayed behind to work in Korea, what came to be known as 기러기 아빠, or goose father phenomenon, that practice has since declined, partly because of the negative perception surrounding it. And as for weekend couples, they weren't nearly as common back then, but today, with more women participating actively in the workforce and making that extra income, career demands have made weekend marriages far more prevalent.
So what are your thoughts on weekend marriages?
I mean, it really depends on the situation, but if both of you are working and you are going to be responsible for financially, then I think it works as long as you share the responsibility of householding, and also when you especially have kids.
That's a big difference, right?
During the weekend, you have to just if one parent is taking care of the whole children, then the other parent has to just work more during the weekends to take care of the babies. So I guess it all really depends.
So I guess it really, as either ways, communication is really important. So we've been talking about the rise of couples that live apart and how perceptions of this lifestyle, especially among younger generations, are changing. But what do our viewers think about this? To find out, we turned to our Arirang News YouTube community and asked, what's your view on married couples living apart? So let's take a look at what they had to say. So 66% said it really depends on the situation. Meanwhile, 27% believe couples should always live together, while 6% feel that living separately is the better option. And finally, about 1% had other views. So it looks like the majority of people believe that it really depends on the situation, which makes sense because every marriage is quite different. And both of you have personal experiences with marriage, so you know what it's really like day to day. So hearing about trends like LAT and couples living apart, so what are your thoughts on this, June? Do you think this approach could work, or is it something that you'd personally never really consider?
Well, from my perspective, I think it will work well under certain conditions. You've got to set a certain period of time and clear agreements between your wife and husband, of course. And couples need to decide when and how often they will meet and keep that promise. I even noticed this myself. Whenever I come back from a work trip or a short journey, I promise that I will come back on Saturday or Sunday. Seeing my husband and children feels even warmer and more precious indeed. For example, my own brother, he works in Seoul while his wife and young daughter, they live in Busan. So they are obviously a weekend couple. So even though it's quite expensive and tiring, exhausted always, he takes the KTX train every single week in order to see his family. And this effort keeps their bond stronger, and in my opinion, even gives their marriage a healthier balance. So travel away, return with more affection.
So you're kind of open to, doing LAT, for example. So what are some reasons or situations that you'd consider LAT?
I think work-wise, if I've got to work in a certain place or he has to work in a different place, then we've got to talk
about the situation.
That's right. Yes.
So what about you, Ki?
Well, my sister, as a matter of fact, is a weekend couple because her husband works in Pyeongtaek, whereas she has to stay here for her work, and and my mom is helping them out, so it works somehow. And so depending on the circumstances, some people feel it doesn't really matter if a couple lives apart. And in fact, at times they even believe being apart can be better. And like Jiyeon said, when I come back from a short business trip, I appreciate my family more, and they did feel the same way too. Many couples wish for their private space and their time sometimes, and I think respecting that aspect is also very important.
I agree. So factors like work schedules, personal habits, and family responsibilities all play a role in what works best for each couple. So it really comes down to finding that balance that keeps both partners happy. So to get a more global perspective on this, we're going to speak with a young person from a different country to learn whether LAT couples are on the rise in his country. That conversation will take up right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Jessie Ashdown, a millennial from Britain. Hi, Jessie. Thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So have you noticed couples who live apart becoming more common in Britain?
I would say no, but I do think it is something that could become more common as time goes on, especially since I think people's attitudes towards couples' life has changed in the UK, I would say.
I see. Let's go on. Yes.
No, that's what I would say. It's not really a thing that I've seen personally, but I think it could be a thing. But it's neither here or there right now, I would say.
Okay, Jessie, then how do millennials and Gen Z in Britain generally view couples that live apart?
Well, I would say that the initial response would probably be a bit of confusion and concern. They would probably assume that there was some sort of issue in the relationship and that's why people are living apart. But I think once the couple explain their situation, I actually think there'd be quite a lot of respect for the couple. Because I was actually talking to some of my friends about this, and the general consensus is that a lot of people found such a situation quite appealing to them because it gives them a lot of personal time and space. And most of the concerns weren't really about the relationship aspect, but more the financial aspect of the situation.
Sure. So just what do you think are the pros and cons of those couples who are living apart? And would you personally choose this sort of lifestyle?
Well, I think one of the pros is that it enables you to have your own space, to do your own independent things and sort of have a break from your partner. Because no matter how much you like someone or like being with them, there are still times where you need a little bit of time to yourself. And if you have two separate households, you really have a choice in how much time you want to spend together. Whereas if you have one, you're kind of stuck together at the hip. Whereas a con of the situation is that it could potentially be not unstable, but a less stable situation to raise a family in if that's what you wanted. And if you're not careful, your relationship could quickly deteriorate or decline. Personally, I think I would be okay with such a situation. I'm quite an independent person and I would appreciate the opportunity to have my own space at my own time. And also I have a career which is quite unstable with work hours. So I would probably end up being in a weekend couple situation anyways, because I'm so busy with work. But I fundamentally think that any sort of situation would just rely on communication. So it wouldn't be my ideal plan. I would never choose to do it if I had a choice. But if the situation required it, I'd be fine with the situation, is sort of my approach.
I agree. I think it's really about the situation that two people are in. So his communication, I guess, will be really important. So thank you so much for sharing your insight with us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you.
So we just heard from a millennial from Britain about how couples who are living apart are viewed in his country, what younger generations think of this lifestyle, and the pros and cons he sees from his perspective. So it's fascinating to compare this with what we've been seeing here and to think about how culture shapes the way couples approach marriage. And speaking of pros and cons, which is a big part of today's discussion, I'd love to hear from both of you, starting with you, Ji-hyun. What do you think are the potential challenges of living apart? And if you have any personal experience or stories, please feel free to share.
Yeah, of course. Life is a challenge, and especially marriage is a challenge indeed. But I reckon living apart can offer both closeness and freedom at the same time to both of them, of course. And in today's world, many people feel a real need for their personal space, their room sometimes, and this arrangement can satisfy that desire. So from my experience, even during conflicts, that means fighting, having a quarrel, taking some time apart to reflect makes making up much easier and calmer. When my husband and I disagree on something, I step away before it escalates. Sometimes just leaving the room or leave the house for a while. After some time alone, we can meet again and we get calmer and more understanding. So, but of course there are some downsides, of course, and as emotional distance and misunderstandings can build up more easily without daily face-to-face contact, and also there could be some emergencies like illness or accidents can happen. So care may be lacking, and two homes also mean double the cost. You've got to buy the furniture or the stuff you need for the house. So while living apart can refresh a marriage itself, it needs planning, commitment, and money, of course, and a lot of trust to truly work.
So this reminds me of the saying like absence makes the heart grow fonder, or out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Which side are you more of a believer of?
I don't know. It depends on the situation.
It really does. It really
yes.
does. Okay, so you mentioned earlier that you don't think this is a bad idea. Could you share what you see as the main advantages of this approach?
Well, during the COVID era, I thought we were suffocating because, of course, we're stuck in the same room and then we couldn't move and we couldn't go anywhere. But on the positive side, having separate space can reduce the friction in daily life and even improve things like the sleep quality or personal well-being. Some couples find that it's very important, and a distance helps them appreciate each other more, keeping the relationship fresh. And of course, it allows each partner greater independence to focus on their own career or personal growth. Every couple has different ways of overcoming disagreement. In my case, Kid's mom wants to clear things right away, whereas for me, like Juhyun, I need some time off to cool myself down. And it always doesn't work the exact way I want, but I guess that's the marriage. But there are drawbacks too. In families with children, one partner normally ends up carrying more of the parenting and household burden. There's still lingering social perception that separation signals trouble in marriage. So it really depends on how each couple manages that balance.
Are there any moments where you feel like independence is really important? Like Jesse also mentioned that too, like having a personal time is really important.
I mean, sometimes you have to prepare for the next day just for work, right? Or sometimes you want to focus on something, but with children running around and moms yelling, obviously that's rough to do. So that's exactly why you need some space, and then sometimes you just want to take a break from everything. And then that being independent and living apart can sometimes probably can help that out too.
And I think we all want our own hobbies and our own time to do stuff as well.
Especially when I'm making Lego and the kids come in and breaks it, then what happens next.
So we've heard a lot about the rise of LAT couples, how perceptions are changing, and the pros and cons of living apart. So to wrap up our discussion today, based on everything we've talked about today, what would you say are the key points or precautions couples should keep in mind if they're considering choosing the LAT lifestyle, Juhyun?
Well, it is 수면 이혼 in Korean, and it says LAT, live apart together. The terminology itself doesn't make sense. Live apart, but together. So, well, it is another form of family style in today's society, but it's a decision that needs a careful thought indeed. So couples should have open discussions a lot and set clear expectations before choosing it. So they also need to plan how to stay emotionally connected because they are still together emotionally while living apart. And in the end, trust, communication, and flexibility are the key issue to making LAT actually work wisely. So different addresses, united hearts until we meet again.
So I asked Key this question earlier too, but is there a way that you and your husband also have your own thing?
Own thing? Well, he has his own space. I allow him to buy whatever he wants.
It's very kind of you.
Kind of. I don't know, but he asks me whether he can buy this or not, and then I tell him that you've got to tell me at least 100 reasons to buy 100, at least 100 reasons, and then he explains that, and then I say yes to him, and also he has his own space. So that's why men need that. Needs that. Is that
You're
true?
a really nice wife. You're a good wife.
And it's important to understand each other's differences as
That's
well.
right.
And
That's the key.
I'm sure there's things you also enjoy too.
I enjoy my freedom. I enjoy my free hands. So if I want to do that, if I want that, I ask him whether I can go out this night or sometimes can I hang out with my friends for a while. And he allows me to do that.
Right, I see. So what do you think about this?
Well, I think the idea of live apart but together really reflects changing attitudes towards intimacy and the personal freedom. And it's not about lacking love. They love each other, but it's about respecting each other's space and lifestyle. So I say LAT is a sign that the modern relationships are becoming more diverse and flexible, with people redefining what partnership means to them. But again, like Jiyeon said, it should be controlled, it should be planned.
So living apart together might have seemed unconventional in the past, but as you've seen today, it's becoming an increasingly common choice for couples who want to balance personal space with a strong relationship. So it's important to remember not to judge others' choices and to stay open-minded. What works for one couple might not for another. So whether it's about sleep, work, or lifestyle preferences, what matters most is finding what works best for both partners. And this brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Big thanks to Jiyeon.
Thank you for having me, Sishin.
And also Keith.
Thank you.
And to all our viewers, thank you so much for watching, and we hope you have the best day. We are News
Generation.
How to survive in Korea. Weddings. Step 0. Attire. As a guest, dress formal to business casual. Avoid wearing all white, shorts or going topless. Step 1. Arrival time. Arrive 30 minutes prior to the wedding ceremony. Too many cars, too many halls, too many people. There are many twists and turns. Take pictures and shake hands. And write your name vertically, not horizontally, in the guest book. Step 2. Or, shibor. 50,000 won, 100,000 won, 150,000 won. Cash gifts are given in these units. Decide on the amount based on your relationship. Write your name vertically on the envelope. Step 3. Wedding etiquette. Fill up the front row. Guests have 3 duties to fulfill: clapping, cheering, and taking pictures. Step 4. Dining. Take off your jacket. This will be your seat from now on. Start with the not your everyday delicacies. Galbijjim. Yes. Bosa. Yes. Chili shrimps. Definitely yes. Kimbap. Yeah. Only if you can't live without it. No need to pile up food. You have more than one opportunity. Did you survive the wedding? Wait, did someone catch your eye? What are you waiting for? You're looking fine today.